Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 47 of the Rock Podcast. For those about to pod, we salute you. We have, as usual, all the latest rock news, new rock on the block. We have hidden gem time, Unsung Hero, but here he is, the maestro of mayhem from our little orchestra of rock and roll, Mr. Matt Rogers. Hey Matt, how you doing?
Hello, Brian. All right, thank you. How are you?
Tired after 57 takes of that intro.
Well, we got there eventually.
We did indeed.
Last time I saw you, of course, we were at Rush Fest in Glasgow. That was fun on the whole, wasn't it?
It was very good. I now know that in the pantheon and levels of Rush fandom, I am a mere child, a beginner.
Yeah, same. I'm about 6. I mean, the level of... We did say this when we were talking about it originally. The level of fan worship. I suppose it was a convention, wasn't it? It was off the scale. And it was good. There was a Q&A with the long-time producer, Terry Brown, which was good, very interesting. And their long-time artist who designed most of the album covers, Hugh Syme, both of whom we met. They were lovely guys.
They were fabulous. Nice, they were lovely. Yeah.
And but I think the highlight for me was the Q&A with Neil Peart's sisters, the late drummer of Rush. His sisters were there and talking about him as just a regular guy, a big brother, which is very sweet and very poignant. Yeah. It's a good fun weekend though.
It was indeed.
I was a bit under the weather when we were there. Again,
food poisoning, young man.
Seems to be recurring food poisoning. Don't have chicken burgers when you're in Glasgow. I'm sure on the whole they're fine. I mean, maybe it wasn't even that. Who knows? Maybe what? But I'm fine now, thankfully.
Yeah. And the bands that played, I know I wasn't there on the Saturday. The young girl that played on this Friday night, she was fantastic with her acoustic renditions of some Rush material. And then the band on the Sunday played my era of Rush, the kind of the 80s and the latter period of Rush, and the drummer was phenomenal, and the singer, bless him, to be singing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, day 3 of a Rush Fest, he did a fantastic job. They were a great band.
Yeah, we should give a shout out to Leonie Jane Kennedy. You was the person who was playing the Rush songs on her acoustic guitar, and moving pictures were there. It was great. It was good fun. Good fun. So, what has caught your eye, Bri, in the news?
Well, in the news, all change again. All aboard the ever-changing bus that is the Dead Daisies. Krabby's back. John Krabby was teased on social media this week. Dead Daisies are bringing out a best of album and coming back out on tour. And Glenn Hughes is probably going to spend more time singing Deep Purple tunes. So John Krabby's back, and what's an even fabulous addition to the Dead Daisies, Michael Devon is going to be playing bass, and Michael Devon is an amazing singer in his own right. So Dead Daisies are going to be fabulous. New album, best of, and touring later this year. So that's first bit of news.
No, I'm really pleased about that. I mean, nothing against Glenn Hughes, but I thought the Dead Daisies with John Corabi was excellent. Saw him a few times. He's an amazing front man. Of course, spent a little bit of time in Motley Crue, but I think he's found his home with Dead Daisies. And as you say, it's an ever revolving door with Dead Daisies. They've had all sorts of members over the years, more so than Whitesnake.
Exactly. Well, how many Whitesnake members have been in the Dead Daisies?
Well, that's true. And funny you should say that because we were talking about it. And a lot of the Whitesnake guys, now that Whitesnake is largely kind of finished with the live performances. We mentioned Joel Hoekstra last time with 13. Michael Devon's joined Dead Daisies, which is great for them, of course. Fantastic bass player, a great singer. Tommy Aldridge is with, and Joel Hoekstra with Iconic. So they're all getting back out there. And Reb Beach, who we'll talk about later, is back with Winger. It's great. Yeah, I'm very pleased. I like John Corabi. He's very hairy, which is fine, by the way. Ridiculously hairy. He's like a walking blob of hair.
With a
Beard,
great voice.
long hair. Amazing voice. Great fun, man, too. If you get a chance to see Dead Daisies with John Corabi, and I know our friend Will Stoney is a huge fan of Dead Daisies. He'll be very, very happy to know that John Corabi's back. One thing that caught my eye, Brian. I know you saw this as well. There's a new world record for the number of gigs attended in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I saw this, I thought it was going to be like 400 or 500, at least. And the new total is 86, which is great. Good on Joshua Beck from Monroe Township, New Jersey. Hello to our New Jersey listeners, by the way. Hi, everyone. Who has officially entered the Guinness Book of World Records after he attended a mind-blowing, as the Guinness Book of Records said, 86 gigs in 2022. Now, the previous record was 65, so he smashed it by 21 gigs. 86 is 1 gig every 4.2 days, or put another way, 7 concerts per month. Now, it got me thinking, I think you thought the same thing, Brian. Our friend John Law, when he was 50, he did 50 gigs at 50. Now, if he'd have tried a little bit harder, if he did 66, he'd have had the world record then.
Exactly. He had it in his midst.
Exactly.
It was in his grasp.
It was in his grasp. It's on the horizon. Better have gone for it. So it made me, because you've totted up how many gigs you did in 2022. How many was it, Brian?
I was kind of hoping it would be, maybe half, but I did 29 gigs.
That's still very impressive.
But I'm counting festivals as 1 gig.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That's well, it's very impressive indeed. But yeah, it just shows you. I mean, these records are not out of reach.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically, we're throwing down the gauntlet, throwing down the challenge. Anyone who fancies trying to beat that, good on you, go for it.
Exactly, but remember, people, when Josh was reported around his world record, he did say that he spent about $5,000 in tickets, plus whatever the cost was going to be for his accommodation. So your world record is going to set you back quite a bit of money.
So here's what you got to do, Brian. You live in Edinburgh, as we've established, on the edge of Edinburgh. There's a great little venue called Bannerman's in Edinburgh, which has gigs every night. All you got to do is go for a couple of months. You're done. That's it. No, a few months. 3 months. You go every night for 3 months.
Exactly.
And that's it. I'm calling the Guinness Book of Records now. The Guinness Book of Records, even.
Oh yeah.
Guinness Book of Records. I'm calling them. Just set them up for your record-breaking feat. Can you imagine that? You'd make all the headlines and everything. It'd be great. Brian Maley, half-decent guitarist, has broken the world record for gigs, all at the same venue in Edinburgh. But, gigs a gig. And he spent a princely 200 quid.
I think there'll be a lot of people who've read that article going, 86 gigs, not that much. I might just go for it. There'll be hundreds of people that'll be trying to go for that world record.
I know, we'll have to keep an eye on that one, see how the record goes onwards and upwards. Right.
Now, as we are recording, Matthew.
Yes.
Breaking news. We now know who the drummer for the Foo Fighters is going to be.
Go on. Who is it?
It is Josh Freese.
As expected.
So,
well, possibly to expect. My money was on Rufus Taylor from The Darkness. Yeah. But Josh Freese, good choice. We talked about him in the context of the tribute concerts.
Yeah.
Is that? Are you sure about that? Or is he just kind of
absolutely confirmed. Because, ladies and gentlemen, as we're recording the podcast this evening, the Foos are actually streaming their first live show. And yes, it is confirmed that Josh Freese is the new drummer. So good luck, Josh. The new singles that have been coming off the new album from the Foos sound brilliant. So that's good news.
All right. Well, good luck, Josh.
Yep.
In other news, something else that caught my eye was some something quiet. We love a little quirky story on the old podcast, of course. And this was a good example. So the Lord Mayor, or the new Lord Mayor of Portsmouth, which is on the south coast of England, where my daughter Georgia went to university, actually. Hi, Georgia. Hi, Olivia. Hi, everyone that knows us, by the way, just in case you feel left out. So Councillor Tom Coles, he was inaugurated as the Lord Mayor of Portsmouth. And as part of his inauguration ceremony, he insisted on having Metallica's Eye of the Beholder as his kind of walk-on music. That was great. From the album And Justice for All. Slightly overlooked Metallica album, mainly because it's got no bass on it. But yeah, he... And also, I love this. This guy would be hilarious. We should get him on the podcast. He said this self-professed Star Trek devotee then proceeded to drop a few bars of Klingon into his welcoming speech. I love that. Klingon and Metallica in the same inauguration. That's brilliant.
Do you know what one of his favourite books will be? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, won't it?
Undoubtedly.
He'll be a real Trekkie sci-fi bloke. Blake 7. He'll still have his DVD of that.
They've challenged me now to put the theme music to Blake 7 and also that clip, which is an Eagles song. I forget the name of the song, actually. Which is essentially the theme music to I'll find out. Our sci-fi aficionado Paul Whelan will help us out on that one.
Okay.
Put the theme music to Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy on as well in the old playlist. I mean, an eclectic one as usual.
Exactly.
Anything else, Bright?
Yeah, the other thing, something happened in our district of London, birthplace, Islington. Yes.
Islington. Those who don't know, Brian and I were born in the same hospital, a few years apart. But we were both born in the Whittington Hospital in London. Or we're giving too much information away. Oops. My mother's name was.
Yes. So
go on, Bryce. Sorry.
In Slim Jim's liqueur store, or liquor, it wouldn't be liqueur, it'd be liquor.
It's liquor. No, it's just liqueurs they serve in there. It's lovely.
Have a little Cointreau.
Exactly.
So
I used to have a Cointreau, actually. Good car, actually. I really enjoyed that, driving that car. The old Audi Cointreau.
Anyway, so the band Borderline Toxic were in the midst of their set in Islington in Slim Jim's, and they were going through the Green Day classic song Basket Case, and you'll never guess who just jumps up on stage, Matthew, to join them as the singer. It was Billy Joe Armstrong himself from Green Day. Got up and sang with the band. The face on Kerry Glass is the lead singer of the band. It's brilliant. Billy just walks up to the front of the audience, rocks up onto the stage, takes the microphone. Her face is a picture, and she's just like stunned. Billy obviously he just smiles, takes the microphone, and sings a song. But I thought brilliant, and the band really good. They just kept going. Billy Joe was fantastic. So your hero's getting up on stage in a pub.
I know. What an experience. And someone had the foresight to capture it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everyone's filming on the gigs these days, but someone captured it. And ironically, as I mentioned earlier, it's around the corner from my daughter, Georgia. She said, yeah, I know Slim Jim's. I said, you should have been there on Saturday night. Billy Joe Armstrong was there. But yeah, right time, right place. Real treat for the people who were there. And it looked like a really busy place. We'll put the clip on our Facebook page, of course.
Yeah.
And you can see how it went. That's great. That's it. All the news, Brian. That is it. So, Brian, here we go again. New rock on the block. The gift that keeps giving. So this time we're going to take a look at the new Winger album, which is called 7. I've got a problem with that name, by the way. We'll come to that. And the new the much awaited Def Leppard album, Drastic Symphonies, which has been hyped to the sky and back again for the last couple of weeks, a couple of months, in fact. Um, let's talk about the Winger album first. Do you know anything about Winger?
Um,
Good band.
they were a great band in the sort of mid to late 80s. They kind of came in. Obviously, Kip Winger's the main songwriter, bassist, vocalist, and obviously I'm well aware of them because of Red Beach. Being sort of the main guitar player in it. But a band in the 80s, I probably went down the Mr. Big route rather than the Winger. But they had a few big hits in America. So and have kept touring. Obviously signed now, Matt, too.
Don't tell me. I mean, if I say it, do you still get a pound?
Yes, that's true. Yes.
Frontiers Records. Then.
Another pound in the jar. So I know reasonably, know reasonable amount about Winger. Kip's a fabulous singer, and this album, as you say, called Seven, which is their seventh studio album. Who would have thought?
Funny that. Funny. Now I have a problem with that when bands call their albums like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. I mean, come on, can't you think of anything? Can't you think of a name for it? You know, I mean. It's just so unimaginative, in my opinion.
I'm with you.
You know, although I do find it a little bit boring when they just pick this decent song off the album and call it. This is the title. It's because it's a good song. Anyway, all that aside, what do you think of the album?
I thought the album to me, Matt, was a modern twist on 80s hair metal.
Okay.
Yeah, it had that. It had that. You know, it had the riffs. It had the great production. Some of the material on the album. My standout track on the album is a track called "Tears of Blood," very reminiscent of Queensryche in the Empire period. It just was, you know, though the production, the separation, chunking guitars, great solos. But the band were so tight, and Kip's vocal, for somebody who produces the band as well as he does, his vocal was exemplary. I thought, for a man of his age, he must be in his 60s now. Sounding great, and the band were sounding good. So there's some really, really good tracks on it. Probably one or two power ballads could have been dropped off for me, Matt. It was kind of it's like half the album's got good old rockers on it, and it, you know, some quite funky, groovy tunes, but a few too many ballads for me, Matt. Chuck the piano in the river. Don't need it.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. I liked it. I really liked it. I don't know much about Winger. I mean, we know the kind of the good old hits from the as you said, late 80s. Headed for a Heartbreak is probably their biggest song. But I quite like this. As you say, it's quite a contemporary sound to it. Weighing in at just shy of an hour.
Yeah.
Which is, so you get value for your $12.99 or whatever it is. I like Proud Desperado. That's probably my standout song on the album. And then I noticed that it was co-written with Desmond Child, who of course is a prolific co-songwriter, written songs for with Bon Jovi, for example. Some of their mega hits were written with Desmond Child. So clearly a great pedigree. But no, I enjoyed it. I think it's an album, you know, like we used to say in the old days, take a few listens. You know, took me a couple of listens before I got into it, we used to say. And Proud Desperado's good. Heaven's Falling's good. Stick the Knife in and Twist is good. It's Okay, as you observed, it's got that kind of classic. What's that thing called? Voice box.
Yeah.
That sort of, you'll know it when you hear it. We'll put it on that sort of Peter Frampton, Richie Sambora kind of effect.
Yeah.
I would certainly, you know, play it again. It's a good album. I recommend it to everyone to have a listen to it. It's, as I say, worth a few listens. Nicely put together. Red Beach's guitar playing is fantastic on it. Ex of Whitesnake, as we said earlier, they're all fun in their own niches now. The Whitesnake boys and girls. So, I think it's well worth a listen. Good album. 7 by Winger. And the other album which we've been listening to lately is the new album from Def Leppard, literally only out a few days ago, called Drastic Symphonies. So this essentially is that modern praise, a reimagining of maybe we should do a reimagining of the podcast, Bri, at some point. I don't know what that would entail. Anyway, it's a reimagining of various Def Leppard songs, not necessarily the hits, but a variety of their songs, 16 in total to be specific, with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, recorded at Abbey Road, which is of course made famous by the Beatles and Pink Floyd and so on. What do you think, Bri?
Oh, you used a word, Matt, very interestingly, reimagining.
Yes. I didn't make that word up, by the way. It's
No.
a quite popular word. But let's use it anyway.
Yeah, I think the album itself starts off brilliantly with a track which I didn't know particularly well. In fact, the opening two tracks in the album are a track called Turn to Dust and a track called Paper Sun, which are not on, Pyromania or Hysteria. They're Turn to Dust is on it's on the Slang album, and it opens up with this Led Zeppelin Eastern it just sounds fantastic. It really works. The orchestra and the band and the tune really works. Similarly with Paper Sun as well too, which is off the Euphoria album. So I think the album gets out of the traps very, very well. However, in the middle of the album, you then have Animal, Pour Some Sugar on Me, Hysteria, and Love Bites. And if I look at those four songs themselves, they're from probably one of the greatest rock albums of all time. And it feels as if nothing really has been imagined apart from Pour Some Sugar on Me. Hysteria, they've taken the guitars down in the fader, stuck some strings on. Similarly with Love Bites. Love Bite, they've just whacked a whole bunch of strings on it. But it's still got the electronic drums and the production values of the Hysteria album. So to me, on the Hysteria tracks, it just feels they've taken the original tracks and just mixed them with some strings on top, and it just didn't work for me, Matt, in the sense of reimagining the tunes or giving me something different. I still like the original version of Hysteria and Love Bites. These tracks don't add anything to it. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, I tend to agree with you. I think because we're so familiar with the Hysteria album songs, anything which deviates from them, even live versions, but certainly a version with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, would probably sound a little bit sort of contrived, I suppose you could say, for want of a better expression. However, I did, as you said, I liked Turn to Dust, like Paper Sun. I thought Gods of War was which is an epic song from Hysteria, was enhanced by having the orchestral arrangements. I liked Switch 625, which is one of my favorite instrumentals. And you're right, some of them were a bit hit and miss, but Bring On the Heartbreak's pretty good. I would like to have had them record the vocals, because they obviously do these songs every night live, so it would be nice if they'd re-record the vocals. But that said, I mean, it's good. I mean, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra sounds absolutely fantastic. The arrangements are brilliant. And I found myself, in a way, enjoying that part of the songs more than the Def Leppard part, which I suppose is somewhat fair enough. But go and have a listen, guys. I think if you like Def Leppard, you'll love it. If you like those sort of rock songs put to an orchestral arrangement, you'll enjoy it too. I mean, in my opinion, it's only my opinion, of course, it's a little bit hit and miss. Not necessarily in this case, but but it's a tall order putting rock songs to orchestral arrangements. But in some cases they did it, and some cases, as I say, because we're so we're so kind of conscious and biased towards the originals, maybe they didn't quite fit. But well worth a listen. Drastic Symphonies by Def Leppard. Probably going to be a lot of people's album of the year, I imagine. But whether it's ours, we shall see in due course.
So, Matt, we arrive at the letter D in our A to Z of rock.
Yes.
And what a difficult chapter this will be in our tome of rock.
I know, it's a tough one, wasn't it?
Yeah, not really.
No.
So where shall we start? Will we start with the artists and get all of the easy ones out of the way?
I think we should, really. We touched upon Def Leppard,
Yep.
of course. Who, I mean, I remember when they were first, on the scene, as it were, back in the late 70s. And I mean, what a legacy! What a canon of work. We touched upon Hysteria earlier, but I mean, Pyromania. First couple of hours are really good too. On Through the Night, High and Dry. So, of course, we'll put some Def Leppard, more Def Leppard, on the podcast playlist.
And for me, an easy one for D's was always going to be Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah. Yep. Great choice. Not actually his real name, of course. It's funny. I was reading his book. I've been reading his book for a while. Maybe I'll talk about it in the next episode. But Ronnie Padovana, the real name, changed his name to Dio because he thought Padovana was a bit of a mouthful, and selected, somewhat riskily, the surname of a well-known New York gangster called Johnny Dio.
All right, I never knew that.
And there's a quite a funny story where he claims to be related in a club in Florida, I think it was, something like that. He claims to be related to Johnny Dio, and the club owner says, "Oh, that's good. Well, Johnny, some of Johnny's friends are coming down at the weekend. I'll introduce you to him." And it's like, "Oh my God, I've made it. What have I done?" But I mean, what a singer! I mean, one of the greats. What an amazing singer, Ronnie Dio. From the early days of Elf through the amazing early years of Rainbow, another excuse to put some fantastic Rainbow songs on. Black Sabbath, of course. I think it's probably where you tuned into him, was it?
Yeah,
Wasn't it,
absolutely. Live Evil, which will be coming out newly remixed. So we'll be able to hear the newly remixed Live Evil, which was obviously the album where Ronnie walked away from Black Sabbath.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, for reasons that are somewhat subject to kind of, they've been lost in the annals of time as to whether he was tweaking with the mixes or not after hours. But it's all water under the bridge now. I was first introduced to Dio, in the Rainbow era, of course, but I actually saw his first ever gig in Britain as Dio at the 83 Monsters of Rock festival at Donington. Strangely enough, another D.
Hey.
And I put a couple of songs from the Dio at Donington '83 album, which you can listen to. It's good. I'm in there somewhere. The age of 18 or so, listening, watching. Yeah, what a singer. I mean, one of the greats. And sadly, no longer with us. Died in 2010, stomach cancer. And much missed, and as I say, one of the heroes of rock, and just a really nice guy and an amazing singer, great songwriter, of course. So I'll put plenty of Dio songs, Rainbow songs, Black Sabbath. An excuse to pile them into the playlist, of course. Anything else on Dio, Brian? Any good memories of Dio? One of your first gigs, Dio, of course, wasn't it?
Was my first gig. Yep. Antrim Forum. Yep. 1984. Yeah, phenomenal. And followed him whenever I could, and I saw him with Heaven and Hell when the band came back round again. Fantastic. Dio, the best heavy metal in that genre of without a doubt. Fantastic. Not many bands can turn around and out of three major acts, and you can say that probably in the top 20 heavy metal hard rock albums of all time, you're able to sing on Rainbow Rising, Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell, and then his own Holy Diver album, many of which singers or performers would like to just be on one of those albums, Matt. And fantastic.
I actually saw Dio a few times, and I saw him with Denzel the Dragon. Remember that era? I think it was the Sacred Heart tour in about 85, 6, something like that. And he had this dragon. It was obviously it was a real dragon. Couldn't get a real dragon. It was a bit too dangerous. But he had this kind of Rubber. It was hilarious. I think I've got a feeling they named it Denzel. At least I'm calling it Denzel for the purposes of D's in the A to Z of rock. So there's Def Leppard and Dio. Any other D's we can think
Deep
of?
Purple, a band
yes.
that was Dio was involved with throughout his
Indeed.
career. Elf supported Deep Purple,
That's right.
which is when Richie caught sight of Ronnie's talent, and then Roger Glover ended up inviting Ronnie to sing on the Butterfly Ball.
That's right.
They had the single "Love Is All Around."
Yeah, Love Is All.
Love Is All.
Yep.
That's thank
You're
you.
thinking of your favourite band, Wet, 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 actually.
Shh.
What a legacy. Fantastic. I mean, from the late 60s, their signature song called Smoke on the Water, but, some amazing albums, Machine Head, In Rock. Still going, of course, with the core of the original lineup to an extent, with Ian Pace and Ian Gillan, Simon McBride on guitar, and your old friend Don Airy on keyboards.
Hey.
Of course, Roger Glover on bass. So, still going strong, and we wish them well. And as I say, one of that holy trinity of bands with Black Sabbath and Led Zepp from the late 60s, and hugely influential, of course. So, any more bands beginning with D, Brad? I think I can think of one more.
Can you? I can.
See, a band very rarely mentioned, actually, Diamond Head.
It's going to become a drinking game, isn't it? It's like this podcast is like every time we hear this, we should have this. Every time you mention this band, somebody should have a little shot of whiskey, a little shot of Dalwhinnie whiskey.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just going to put. I'm not going to mention Diamond Head too much. Formed in 1976, still going strong. Brian Tatler, the only original member, of course. If they play near you, go and see them. Brian Tatler, of course, is now the touring guitarist, as we touched upon a few weeks ago with Saxon. As we've said many times, my favourite band of all time, the mighty Diamond Head. And also mentions band-wise to Dire Straits, of course, put some Dire Straits on the old playlist. The Doors. How can we forget the Doors? Hugely influential. Some great songs, great albums. Sadly, their career cut short by the untimely death of Jim Morrison at the age of 27. Dream Theater. What are your favourites, Dream Theater, aren't they? Featuring the great Mike Portnoy, of course, or at least they were. Yes, indeed. Brian's now doing the famous Mike Portnoy 87 drum paradiddle. Dream Theater, you like them, don't you?
I love Dream Theater. Dream Theater are brilliant. The period in the early to mid 90s, albums like Images and Words, all the way through to Falling into Infinity, even has Doug Pinnock from King's X album. Yeah, great. And yeah, Dream Theater, really, really good band. And continued to, sell out shows across Europe, still have a big following, and continue to record to this day. So great. Other bands that notable mentions, we've obviously talked about the Dead Daisies earlier in the show. Great band, but a band who I loved in the early 80s, and I don't think Father Time has been too kind on this band, and particularly with Don Dokken's voice, but I loved Dokken. The classic lineup of Don Dokken, George Lynch, Jeff Pilson, Mick Brown, made some fabulous albums in the early 80s on Elektra Records. Tooth and Nail, oh my goodness, under Lock and Key, even live, fantastic as well too. So Dokken would have been a notable mention for me, Matt.
Very good. Other notable mentions, Bruce Dickinson, the great Bruce Dickinson, of course, singer of Iron Maiden for the last 40-odd years. Bob Dylan. How could we miss out Bob Dylan? Again, hugely influential. Bob Dylan put some Bob Dylan songs on the old playlist, of course. One thing we did think about was the amount of times the devil has made it into rock music. In fact, the devil horns, of course, as we all like to occasionally, make that gesticulation.
Yes.
The Maloik,
Maloik.
actually, which was popularized by the late, great Ronnie Dio, as mentioned earlier. It's amazing. I think in any other, possibly in blues, which obviously, spawned rock to a large extent, and not many other music genres would you find so many references to the devil, of course. To the Devil Is Due by the Mighty Diamond Head, Sympathy for the Devil, of course, the Rolling Stones, and so on. So many references, and as you quite a lot of kind of hidden references. Black Sabbath, of course, we mentioned many times, were suggested that they were devil worshippers, and a lot of their songs were kind of related to the occult. Iron Maiden, of course, a lot of their songs are original songs about the devil, and and 666, the number of the beast, and so on. But and of course, no doubt plenty of Dio and Black Sabbath Dio era songs were with the devil as a subject matter.
One person that came to mind for me, Matt, when we were talking about D's, and you mentioned Bruce Dickinson and talked about Black Sabbath. Somebody that comes to mind for me, and he sadly passed away a couple of years ago, is David Donato. Do you remember David Donato?
Yes, we talked about him on here. The short-lived singer of Black Sabbath.
Yeah,
He's no longer with us, so that's a shame.
He passed away in 2021. I always, when I think of D's and that famous Kerrang picture where the band, a photograph is taken, they do an interview, and at the time Sabbath are still auditioning members of the band, so Kerrang have got this picture of four blokes. It's Geezer. I think it's probably going to be Geezer, Bill, Tony, and Dave.
Yeah.
And a handsome looking chap he was, he had all the long hair and the muscles, and he looked like a great frontman, and then you're kind of going, this is going to happen. And then zip, nothing. And then the next year, the new version of Sabbath comes out, and no David Donato. And he never really joined the band because he was just there for rehearsal. So there's
a weird one, that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then finally, in the world of D's, of course, we can't overlook denim. So we talked last time about the importance of clothing, but denim, of course, is synonymous and has been probably since, forever with rock music. Popularized probably by Quo, who were head to toe in denim. And of course, denim jackets we touched upon were, de rigueur, and still are largely for, your classic rock fan. Yeah, because famously you still got, well, you actually haven't got it anymore, sadly, but your famous Meatloaf back patch denim jacket.
It had to be Wrangler. Denim jackets had to be a Wrangler, though, Matt.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I always thought Levi's should be the
the
jacket of choice.
Wrangler.
Really? Well, maybe in Northern Ireland, but in Norfolk, we were all Levi'd up.
Oh yeah.
It's funny though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wrangler
denim. Other denim manufacturers
are
out there.
Indeed. Yes. I can't think of any, but I'm sure there are some. So denim, of course. I mean, it's synonymous with rock music, of course. And I had this theory. I was thinking about it. How people sort of put patches and embroidery. We touched upon this last time. Do you know where I think it all comes from?
Where's that?
Boy Scouts and Girl Guides.
Oh, when we got all of our badges.
You must have been exactly. Yeah. I think it's a kind of an extension from that. You were probably were you a scout, Brian, before you were 15 years at university?
I did Cubs, Cubs, Scouts, Venture Scouts.
Yeah, and then 15 years at university. What did you do did you do anything at university, Scouts or Cubs wise, or that was it, you were done?
No, I was done.
I'd love to know whether you still got your little Scout uniform.
Do you know what? I think my mum still has my little green jumper from the Cubs, where I had my little proficiency badges sewn on to my arms.
I'd like to see your woggle at some point.
Woggle.
If you
Stop it. And other D's, young man.
Yes, let's
Away
put an end
from
to
away
this.
from denim. See, when you say denim, I can't help but think of Denim and Leather by Saxon. It's just denim and leather.
That's a staple on the old playlist. That one, blimey, I
It
that
is,
one
it
every week.
is.
I think.
It is. But double albums, Matthew.
Yes,
Double albums.
not anthologies, just double albums.
Double albums. And usually
Much
live albums.
maligned.
But we don't have to go down the rabbit hole of live albums, which are double albums, because we'll then get into a playlist of Strangers in the Night.
Yes,
Live and Dangerous.
Time. Yeah, double albums. Of course, probably one of the most famous, I would say, is Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin.
Yep.
I mean, largely kind of a double album by mistake because they had lots of stuff left over from Led Zeppelin 4 and Houses of the Holy. But there's been a few. There's been a few over the years.
Yeah.
And in a way, a dying art. Now that you can cram, since the invention of or the inception of CDs, you can cram a lot of songs onto basically one disc. But yeah, double albums, gatefold sleeves. Yes,
absolutely.
Pink Floyd, fantastic. Because the gatefold.
Live After Death.
That was the thing, wasn't it? Live After Death was double live album, exactly. But it was that you opened it up. It's like you're entering into this other world, topographic oceans or Long Beach Arena or wherever it was you would end up. Fantastic. Double albums. Yes. Bring back the double album. Yes, Brian.
And the final one from me, Matthew,
Yes.
was songs that started with the word don't.
Yes. There's a lot, isn't there?
Yeah. Some banging rock tunes you had. Don't Stop Believing, which I think at some point was the most streamed rock song on social media.
Yep.
You've got, oh my goodness, Don't Stop Me Now by Queen, Don't Talk to Strangers by Dio, Don't Shoot Shotgun by The Lips, Don't Break My Heart Again by DC and the Snakes, Don't Believe a Word, Thin Lizzy. So you want to score
I'm going to throw in Don't You Forget About Me from one of the greatest films ever, The Breakfast Club.
Yes.
Amazing. So that was letter D. I think we covered most things. Of course, we'll probably miss things out, but if you think we have missed anything out, let us know. Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or write us a letter or send us a telegram or anything, really. Next time it'll be E. Indeed. Yeah, the good old Eagles. Yes, E next time.
So, Matt, we haven't got a jingle for this one yet. We're slacking, but this part of the show, we're going to cover off Unsung Hero. It doesn't really work now.
Good.
I know. So, the Unsung Hero I have for this episode is a record producer who is 80 years old. So, see if you can guess who this guy is. So, this guy has produced Little Feat, Montrose, the Doobie Brothers,
Okay.
and Van Halen.
I think you got me with Van Halen. The great Ted Templeman.
That's indeedy who it is. Ted Templeman, 80 years of age. Ted was born in Santa Cruz, California. Started off his career in producing and A&R. He famously pursued Mo Austin at Warner Brothers Records to get Van Halen their first record deal. And Ted produced all of the Van Halen material right from their debut all the way through to 1984. He famously is the guy on the talkback during the song Unchained when he goes, "Come on, Dave, give me a break." And then Dave does, "One break coming up." So that's Ted on the talkback. But Van Halen, he produced Eat 'Em and Smile for David Lee Roth once David left Van Halen. But he also produced Montrose's debut album, which is an absolute classic. We've talked about that as one of the greatest debut albums. He also worked with the Doobie Brothers. One of my personal favorite albums is A Captain and Me, which has got classics like Long Train Running, China Grove. So I just wanted to call out Ted is probably one of the unsung heroes. We've talked about producers in the past, Martin Birch, Mutt Lange.
Yeah.
So just a shout out to Ted Templeman, and gives us an opportunity to fill the playlist with lots of Van Halen, Montrose, Little Feat, and the Doobie Brothers. There you go, Ted Templeman.
Yeah. Fantastic. 80 years old. God bless him.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you say, one of those many producers that, on the back of albums, and as you say, made an appearance on Unchained.
Yeah.
And that classic kind of ad-libbed bit, I guess it was. Fantastic. Good choice, Bright. Good choice.
Thank you.
Good choice. So, boys and girls, that brings us to
Hidden Gems Eyes.
Thank you, Lola, as always. Sounding good. What you got for us, Bri?
So the album, I'm going to go a little bit progressive rock on this. How do you follow up a career-defining album in 1983? That was the question that had to be answered by the band Yes. So Yes produced the Behemoth album that was 90125 in 1983 with Trevor Rabin in the band. And they toured that for ages. They even brought out a live album. So they actually brought out an album with just the solos from all the band. That's how well they were raining the cash out of that cash cow. So 1984-85, the hidden gem that I'm going to put forward is the album Big Generator. So Big Generator by Yes. There's a couple of great tracks from that Trevor Rabin era of Yes. Rhythm of Love, Big Generator, the title track, and an album track. They did actually release this as a single called Love Will Find a Way. And if you want to hear that orchestra strings lovely intermingling with rock music, which was hit or miss on the Def Leppard track, listen to Love Will Find Your Way, because that's where Trevor Rabin is able to just mesh the orchestra and the guitars together. So my album for Hidden Gem Time is Big Generator by Yes.
Very good. Yeah, I remember it. Some good songs, actually, as you said.
Yeah.
Maybe not the most lauded period of Yes's career, but certainly, as you say, memorable. Yeah, put some songs on the old.
I will do.
The old playlist.
Will do. And what about you?
Well, I've got a documentary actually, and you and I both like a documentary. It's one I came across quite recently. It's a BBC documentary, so hopefully our listeners from around the world can access it. It's the Stones and Brian Jones.
Oh.
So it charts the. It's really interesting. If you think about the Stones as being, obviously the last sort of 40, 50 years with, Ronnie Wood or Mick Taylor or whoever it might be, but Brian Jones essentially was the founder and leader of the Stones in the early 60s, and met untimely death in 1969, and by that time had been fired from the Stones. But a really, really interesting kind of behind the scenes documentary highlighting specifically his life, and obviously how he intertwined with the Stones, his influence on them. He was trying to take them more in a kind of blues R&B direction, whereas Keith Richards and Mick Jagger were taking them in a more pop direction. So there was obviously a falling out, which led to him leaving the Stones. But fascinating, a very, very interesting guy. And as I say, a sad early demise. Obviously was very much influenced by drugs, and that led to his erratic behavior, which ultimately led to his leaving the Stones. But it's a fascinating documentary. If you get the opportunity to watch it, it's on the BBC iPlayer. It should be available around the world, one would think. But check it out. The Stones and Brian Jones.
I do like the way in which they do reference Brian as, a key founding member and leader for the Stones, and he's not forgotten about. Similarly, the way in which they talk about Syd Barrett and Pink Floyd. It's not all about Dave Gilmour and and Roger Waters, they do go back and say at a point in time, Sid ran the show as Brian did with the Stones. So yeah, I'm sure that's kind of fascinating documentary.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it.
That's it. Episode
That's it,
47. Boom.
Yeah. What do you think of that? Enjoy that?
I did indeed.
Good. Well, we got episode 48 next.
We have.
Well, we look at the letter E. By that time, I will have been to see variety of bands, FM, Dare, and Taiketo, which I'm looking forward to. I shall have a report of that. And the Call of the Wild Festival. My wife and I are going to that, headlined by TerraVision and Those Damn Crows. So a gig review coming soon.
Excellent. Well, thank you for everybody who's listening on the show. You can catch us we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. Our Twitter account is at FTATpod, so you'll get us there.
Email address. HQ address. Brian Maley, Edinburgh. That should get to him.
Exact. Thank you. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening to this episode, and we'll catch you all next time. Rock on. See you later.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Those About the Pub, We Salute You is a Maley Rogers production.